but Doug had a travel scheduling issue. We are going to have Doug tonight, probably about 8 o'clock Pacific time. So you can join me for that in about an hour and 45 minutes or so. But right now I'm going to fill in. Ashley is on the road, or as they would say in the old radio TV business I used to be in, she's on assignment and not with us. But this is, I'm going to do my weekly edition, since I didn't get to do it yesterday, of Right Wingers Gone Wild. And remember, I do this not just to make fun of right wingers, although we do that. Although not, most of the videos are kind of sad rather than funny today. But to show how these right-wing extremists, first off, how extreme they are. I hear all the time people saying, you on the left are so extreme. But it's funny because everybody that doesn't agree with this very extremist right wing are leftist, socialist, Marxist, all those things, which most of the time right wingers can't define any of those words anyway. But I want to show how extreme these right-wing beliefs have become, and maybe hold up a mirror to somebody that still has some ability to be introspective on the right, and maybe say, could it be true that my crew doesn't have it all exactly right? And I can think about where I am, what my echo chamber is thinking, and what I'm doing. So welcome all of you who are here on TikTok, all of you with me here in Facebook and YouTube, all the evangelicalish crowd and the Pastor Paul crowd. Again, Doug Pagitt will be with us tonight at 8 o'clock Pacific. In fact, maybe I should put a scroll on that. So if people come and just jump in, we can loop it in. I think I can put a scroll somehow. Where do I put that? I probably should have looked at that beforehand, shouldn't I? Well, we'll just have to keep saying it over and over and over again. All right. So glad you're here. And we're going to talk about Right Wingers Gone Wild. I'll start by giving just a very quick impression, not an impression, my impression from the VP debate last night. Obviously, J.D. Vance had one instruction and one instruction only, and that is to try and look human. For God's sakes, J.D., for one time ever, try to look like an actual human being. And being Yale trained, I think he did a good job of looking human, which he rarely does on a daily basis as he's pandering to the right-wing MAGA crowd. But let me tell you something about debating, and I've done some of it. I don't love debating, but I did some of it back in high school. It's very easy to be a really good debater if you have absolutely no shame about lying nonstop. If facts mean nothing, debating is easy, because all you have to do is say, no, that's not true. I did go to the moon in 1972 and it was made of cheese. Wait, the rules are you can't fact check me. You can't fact check me. So if you can lie because you have no soul and, say things without flinching, like, it's not about the guns. It's that we need better locks on the school doors. And you can say that without going, man, I am a fucking moron, or I am a horrible, terrible, heartless person. Or you can say, well, we don't have to worry about previous conditions and insurance companies. We have a law that protects against that. Yes, it's called Obamacare. And if your boss tries to get rid of it again, and this time doesn't have a backstop like John McCain to stop him, people with previous conditions will not be able to get insurance again, like the capitalistic for-profit insurance system of the past. So yes, any of us can be a smooth, amazing debater if facts absolutely are inconsequential to us. And truly, JD Vance is a human being, well-spoken, very smooth, and will say anything he needs to say to be in the good graces of whomever he needs to be in the good graces of. And the only place you saw that he got hung up was the January 6th question. And because he cannot piss off that narcissistic reality TV, 2-bit reality TV host, carnival barker of a boss, he couldn't talk his way out of that one, could he? But now let's go. Time for right wingers gone wild. And it's been really interesting to me, having grown up in the evangelical church and as a child singing songs like "Onward, Christian Soldiers, Marching as to War." Yes, 5-year-olds are taught this song. We're taught how God told Joshua and the Israelites to wipe out all of the people in the promised land of Palestine. Everybody had to die. We're taught that from day one as a 4, 5, 6-year-old, that now it's right wingers who are saying, oh, it's the left that's causing assassination attempts on the president or something like that. When talk of we're oppressed, we're being warred against are something we hear nonstop in Christian circles. And so let's start with one of those, one of the areas of just dire oppression that Christians face on a regular basis. And it really does tear at your heart when you think about it. And it is a war against Christians. It's the war on Christmas.
Remember when Obama was president, and for those 8 years, we were having a hard time saying Merry Christmas?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? I do not remember a time when you were not allowed to say Merry Christmas. I know of a time when we said Happy Holidays is more inclusive, but I never remember a time where you were not allowed to say Merry Christmas. I do remember Donald Trump telling people that they were not allowed to say Merry Christmas before him. And of course, people like the folks on the screen believe everything a reality TV carnival barker tells them.
Things have changed
Yeah.
so much, and that's a lot due to President Trump.
Yes.
He's going to get back in. No one will ever.
I will absolutely agree with that statement. Much has changed in America because of Donald Trump. We are a totally different people. Actually, I shouldn't say that. We have been revealed at what our heart is by Donald Trump giving everyone permission to be their worst selves.
Never convince me otherwise. If nothing else, Prophet Kim Clement said 2 terms. And so I know that it's going to happen. We don't know when.
People believe Prophet Kim Clement prophesied Trump being president. If God talks to Kim Clement, he never bothered to tell him or any of the other prophets from my religious heritage that a pandemic was coming that would shut down the entire world. Not a one of them said, oh, there's a pandemic coming and we're all going to have to stay in our homes for like a year. You would think God would want to mention that to somebody along the way rather than just saying Trump's going to win in 2020 and then prove to be wrong, unless you're a QAnoner.
You know, that's up to God, but God's playing rope-a-dope. When it's time, it will definitely be time.
And also, my dad said something interesting yesterday, that a president could be president up to 10 years, not 8.
No, he can't. And again, this goes to we can be told anything and we can believe anything as a right-wing Christian because we've been groomed to believe the unbelievable. And we've been groomed to not question the unbelievable. We've been groomed to believe that a God is going to come in the sky and take us out of our pajamas and take us out of our car, leave our pets behind, and fly to heaven. You can be a president for 10 years if you take over the term of another person and then are elected to 2 more terms. There's not just a way you can say, presto changeo, we really love Donald Trump, therefore we want him to be president for 10 years. And sadly, as I keep saying, poor right-wing Christians, you're being lied to. You're being lied to from the pulpit, from your podcasts, certainly from your media and websites put together by a guy who lives in his dad's basement. And I just urge you, just for a second, if your beliefs are from God, there should be no hopefully you are worshiping the one true God, and that God is telling your prophets what is true. There should be zero fear of challenging those beliefs to see if they're really true. So step outside the echo chamber, get yourself a little sun, note that the sky is actually blue, and say, is there a chance, like so many other Christians in history, like Saul of Tarsus, that I'm believing something that is not true and not in alignment with heaven? And maybe those 2 women who were on the screen will do that one day. But you see how it's this idea. This election is not between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. It is between God and pure evil. That is the belief. That is what has been inculcated and indoctrinated in the crowd. Then mix in a whole big lump of misogyny. And if you don't believe me, listen to this right-wing pastor praying against Vice President Harris.
Say, even as you told me to say in 2015 against Hillary Clinton, I now declare against Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Kamala. Gee. Why can you guys not say her name?
That according to James 1:11, that her campaign is as grass, and that she is even as the flower of the grass, and that the burning, searing, exposing heat of God now causes her campaign and her herself to wither away, and to become as nothing. That there would be exposure from the radiance of who you are.
Wither away. Is he praying for her to get sick? I think one could make that argument, couldn't they?
And he would cause, Lord, her campaign to vanish.
That she's like the grass and the flowers that you can, I guess, take a lawnmower and just dispose of. Who are the ones that are using dangerous rhetoric? And like I said, there's a whole lot of misogyny in that too. We hear a lot, something that I never thought we would hear spoken out in America, people saying we should have never let women have the right to vote, which is ludicrous. But whenever you have a woman who has power, you're going to start to hear Christians talk about the Jezebel spirit. It's always the Jezebel spirit whenever a woman has a position of authority, because they are terrified of women in authority. There's much teaching in Christianity, and you'll hear some evangelicals say, well, we don't really believe that, but show me how many women are in authority in their churches and what they really believe. And how many times you'll be in a church and say, thank you, ladies, for setting up this wonderful potluck for us in the fellowship hall. Just check that. And so here is a man I know named Lance Wallnau, who has really gone off the cliff of reason. Seven Mountains guy, and note the use, because Vice President Harris is a woman, that it's the Jezebel spirit that has her in the position of making Donald Trump look like a doddering, old, lying fool.
Elections coming 5 days after Halloween. Another high holy day for all the Satanist crazy people. And what you're seeing now is a real Jezebel. When you've got somebody operating in manipulation, intimidation, and domination, especially when it's in a female role, trying to emasculate a man who is standing up for truth.
See, how can a woman win a debate over a man? That's a Jezebel spirit. That's emasculating of a man. That is not allowed in patriarchy, where men have to be in charge for it to be a godly pursuit, right?
You're dealing with the Jezebel spirit. So with Kamala, she can look presidential, and that's the seduction of what I would say is witchcraft. That occult spirit, I believe, is operating on her and through her, similar to with Obama, that there's a kind of an angel of light, charisma. You can see it at the DNC. The good news is Jezebel may be the spirit you're up against, but then Trump has like an Elijah mantle on him, probably from the intercession of 1 million Christians.
Oh, this thing of Trump. Is he King David? Is he Cyrus? Is he Elijah? Is he Jesus, the Messiah himself? It changes based upon what they need him to be at a given moment. And by the way, I love Pucky in our live feed on YouTube says, great costume idea for Halloween. I'll dress up as Jezebel. I love it.
Actually, if you got a Jezebel, you have an Elijah. So we have to double down in intercessory prayer.
Again, Elijah in the Bible threw Jezebel, or had her thrown down from a high window, and she splattered open on the bricks below, and dogs ate her intestines. This is what these people are talking about. Elijah killing Jezebel, basically, because she had emasculated the king, King Ahab. And now here's Kamala Harris emasculating Donald Trump. So she must have a Jezebel, seductive, manipulating witch's spirit.
Warfare mode. We got to lean into this thing, because the Elijah mantle can break the spell of witchcraft off America. God can tear the veil, and unless that veil is torn, we have a lot working against us.
Yeah. See how it's always, and I cut out part of this, but he was talking about warfare prayer. Like this Christian discussion, we're at war. We are at war with pure evil. So any means, I saw somebody post something yesterday on social media, like, we can lie. This is something I heard Christians say about Muslims for years. Like, as a Muslim, you're allowed to lie to trick people for the purpose of advancing Islam. And now I see Christians saying we can lie. In the New Testament, it was the idea that a group of religious people could kill Jesus for the purpose of MIGA, making Israel great again. Because when you marry your politics and religion, as Lance Wallnau and another person I know there, Mario Marilla, who I loved, but they've married politics and religion. And so now morals and means to an end, it all becomes malleable. And that's what we see there. And so they're talking about horrible things because they are having a war against evil, not a political argument where they want their side to win the election, the other side wants their side. But at the end of the day, kind of like the spirit of the debate last night at the time of this recording, like, we're all Americans. We really want a solution here. We just disagree on how it should happen. That's the way politics should work. But Donald Trump came and made it into, I'm great, I'm good, you're horrible. Immigrants are horrible. Trans people are horrible. They're evil. Democrats are eating babies. I just laugh every time I say it. But the sad thing is, people like Lance Wall now believe it. Or if they don't believe it, they're propagating it, even more evil. They're propagating it to people who will believe it so they can manipulate them to vote for the person that gives them political power, which is the opposite of who Jesus Christ was. And so a lot of my friends ask, like, why would Christians like Donald Trump? And I remember interviewing Kristen Dumais, who wrote the book Jesus and John Wayne, which is a great, great book. And she said to me, Christians didn't hold their nose and vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump was exactly the candidate they wanted. A vile, break the rules, Bruce Willis in Die Hard kind of a character that will do anything to advance the cause. And I really didn't agree with her at the time, but now I see it. And I see how the grooming of Christians, particularly evangelicals in the evangelical church, has caused them to long for an autocrat, a dictator to run things. How Paul Weyrich, the mastermind of the moral majority, not a pastor, a political operative, who said democracy doesn't work. We're never going to be in charge. As conservative Christians, we have to learn how to get around democracy. And Christians really have adopted, if you read Project 2025, they've lived this out, and we've got to get around democracy and learn how to be a minority in charge of the country permanently. So they love autocrats and dictators. And if you don't believe me, listen to this young Christian podcaster here.
Also, Russia is a Christian nationalist nation. They're actually Orthodox Christian. I'm Russian Orthodox. So, I actually support Putin's right to protect his people and always put his people first, but also protect their Christian values. I identify more with with Putin's Christian values than I do with Joe Biden. So, there is that. There is that there. Christian nationalist countries also are a threat to the global regime, like the Luciferian regime. It wants to mash everything together, but Putin takes care of his people. He looks out for his people.
Unbelievable. And by the way, I just got banned again from live on TikTok. I don't know how TikTok, I don't believe this, something. I'm not sure why I got this restriction. TikTok should allow content. So yeah, sometimes in the past they have realized that they okay, so I've submitted my appeal, so we'll see. But you see, autocrats, we need a dictator so that Christianity can be in charge of the country and we can make America great again by our race. Oh, did I say that out loud? Our religion, we mean, not white Euro Christianity. We're not saying that. But a dictator who rules his people with an iron fist and has twice now invaded in the last decade sovereign nations with the desire to take their land and their resources. This woman is saying, I really side with him. I think he's a really good guy. And that's because they've been taught autocracy is the way to go. And democracy allows evil to flourish because the people are original sinners and want evil to happen. By the way, quick note, I'll do this just for a second. If you're interested to know how the religious right took over Christianity, I wrote a novel about it called Religious Right, Religiously Wrong. And it's a modern day parable, my vision of how Christianity was taken over by the religious right, how people are trapped in it and would like to get out, even though they don't realize they're trapped or that they want to get out, and how the transformation of a person out of the religious right can have huge ripple effect transformation on the world around them. Which I would love it if you would get this book and read it, post about it on your social media, give it to a friend, buy another for another friend. And as this election season is coming and it's so confusing to people, why are Christians like this? I guarantee if you read this book, Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, you'll get a better understanding of the people you're dealing with and why they believe the way they do, as we're talking about here. They've been groomed to believe that God is a Republican and demands that they be a Republican, even if the character they're voting for is somebody completely without morals, without any scruples whatsoever, like Donald Trump. God wants them to vote for that person. And they've been manipulated through issues like abortion that has been weaponized and politicized, trans sports and things like that, and have been groomed for decades through end times teachings and many other ways. So Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern day parable. It's the work of my heart, the passion of my life. And as I hug the book, for those of you listening in audio, it's really like one of my children, because I spent so much time working on it and putting it together. So if you would take the moment to check it out, buy it on Kindle or paperback from Amazon, you can go to my website, pastor-paul.com, go into my link tree on the bio, wherever you are, and find it and pick it up. Buy it for somebody before this election. Let them read it and see where we are and why we're there. And you'll be happy that you did. Thank you. All right, now to our next video in Right Wingers Gone Wild. And honestly, I've been wrestling with whether to show this one or not, because I'm pretty certain Roseanne Barr has some real mental health issues. And so it may be a little bit cruel for me to show this, but I showed the video about Putin because of the way there is this love for autocrats almost to a cultish level in right-wing extremism. And so Roseanne truly displays this in this compilation of videos.
President Trump did. God bless that man, and I love him, and everybody knows it. I love him more now than I ever loved him, and I love him pretty damn good. I got to get my picture taken with President Trump about a week ago there at Mar-a-Lago, and it was so exciting. I could hardly control myself. I went in there and I grabbed at him, And afterwards I thought, oh my God, I could have got shot. The way I was grabbing at him with the Secret Service, I was just like, oh, I love you. But, I could hardly control myself. I just flipped out. But then several nights later, I saw him again, and I was able to actually touch him and hug him, and it meant so much to me.
Yeah, like I said, I think you can probably see why I was a little hesitant to show that video, but it does demonstrate. I have people say to me on social media on a regular basis, like, why do I not see Joe Biden flags on trucks and in yards and things? And I'm constantly saying, because we don't worship human beings. And to hear people saying, oh, I got to touch him and he's so kind and he always tells the truth. You just can't help but go, yeah, I remember seeing videos of people talking about another Der leader. Der Fuhrer meant dear leader. I remember another dear leader that people talked about like that. Scary stuff. So a lot of this are people under the manipulation and grooming control of a cult-like religion. And they're being outright lied to. We see often particularly in the Hebrew sacred text that Christians colonizingly call the Old Testament, that prophets lied or got things wrong or were even prompted by God to tell lies to bad people so they would do bad things and be punished for it, which is a really circuitous thing if you start to think about it. But some of the prophets that we're seeing on the right are literally lying for bucks. You've heard of dialing for dollars. These are lying for, I don't know what lying for lining their pockets or something like that. This video, you're going to see some people, and one of them is a prophet named Robin Bullock, and you're going to see that he flat out lies in this video, and I'll explain as we go.
Move day or night. I'm absolutely.
So that is Roger Stone on the bottom. He is a criminal that was pardoned by Donald Trump. He should be in prison. He was on Richard Nixon's team and administration as a very young man during Watergate. He has a big tattoo of Nixon across his back. That is, the top picture is Steve Strang there. For those of you who are listening on audio, we see like a stacked picture of Steve Strang and Roger Stone, and a picture of the White House with like a circle around something above it. And what they're pointing to is like a red ball above the White House in a picture. But what Roger Stone is doing on Steve Strang's show, The Elijah List, that's for prophets, I have no idea, because Roger Stone is nothing more than a political criminal, not a prophet.
Convinced about the inherent evil of what's going on in the White House, what's going on in the country. And I think it's imperative that people know about this, that people of good faith, that Christians know about this, and we begin a national, essentially a prayer assault to close the portal.
Give me a couple lines of a prayer.
So what Roger Stone is saying is this picture shows this red ball over the White House, and that is a portal of evil where evil beings are coming from the beyond into this world, and it's what's happening in the White House that is drawing them in. I edit it for length, but he's saying that's what's happening. And now they're going to ask Prophet Robin Bullock to say a prayer to close the portal.
Robin, that would say how to pray to close this thing. Because if millions of people hear this, what would they say to pray? What would they need to pray?
Satan is only afraid of one thing. So we have to stand up and quote the word, the name of Jesus. Every knee should bow of things in heaven, things in earth, things under the earth, and every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. Now, you spirit of hell residing in that portal, trying to get through into this earth, I bind you in the name of Jesus. I deny your access to this planet. You cannot come through it, and you have to bow your knee to the name of Jesus. Now you're talking about something that can actually stop him.
Awesome.
I said, Lord, send.
Okay, that was Robin Bullock, prophet, talking about how to pray this portal closed so that evil doesn't come through the work of the White House into the United States. Now we're going to see Robin Bullock on another TV show, Christian TV show, with a lot of people with bad hair. Maybe I'm not one to talk on that. Talking about this portal from a very different perspective.
Stop him.
Awesome.
I said, Lord, send the fire. The Elijah moment. Then this portal forms over the White House.
So he says a portal forms over the White House, and we're seeing the exact same picture that Roger Stone was talking about with Robin Bullock on the other podcast, saying this is where evil is being brought into the world by Joe Biden. Same picture. Robin Bullock knows it. And he's flat out lying, saying he called for fire and this portal opened over the White House. This man is an out and out liar.
Forms over the White House. Over it now. And they don't want anybody to see that. And but it was there, and I guess it's still there. And people couldn't get over it because in the daylight it was like a round circle. At night it looked like an orange moon surrounded with a white circle, and then this fiery storm over to the side.
It's how this stuff always goes. There's a church called James River in Springfield, Missouri, where they say a woman had 3 toes shot off by her estranged husband in a fight. And then they prayed and the 3 toes grew back. And somebody began to ask, can we see proof of this miracle of these 3 toes? And it was a person in the church who really wanted to know, are these things true? And he totally got blown off there. Blown off, that's a bad pun. Sorry about that. He was told again and again, no, we don't make our people who have miracles into pony shows.
Doesn't move.
Sorry. And so the man started a website called Show Me the Toes, where he is now asking people for proof of miracles. And in this age of cell phone cameras and video cameras, you would think if hundreds of thousands of miracles are happening everywhere, we would have video of it happening. We would have pictures, before and after pictures all over the place. And even a podcaster named Tara Jean Stevens from Heaven Bent met the woman who gladly talked to her and showed her her toes and explained to her how they had grown. And Tara Jean said, they sure looked like there weren't toes there to me, but who am I to question the woman on her own feeling of her miracle? Which is very kind. But here he is, in a very Donald Trumpish way. People couldn't believe it. It's always that way, isn't it? The people nobody's ever seen anything like this before. But he knows he's lying, or else he's delusional, because that picture with that Roger Stone, Steve Strang show was a portal of evil that he was closing in the name of Jesus. And then on the next show, I called fire down from heaven, and there it is. Same picture. He's lying for grift and money. All right, let's finish up with, and the part of the reason why this stuff is so effective on right-wingers is when you're willing to believe anything and not challenge what you believe, then intentionally trying not to learn and be educated on things becomes very important. And just listening to what you're told in your echo chamber is really important. So this is a guy named Matt Walsh, who is a horrible, terrible person. He's being interviewed because he's made a documentary about racism in which he makes the statement, if you think you're not racist, then you're not, which is dubious indeed. But he's talking about the dog and cat eating thing of Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. And he's talking about, well, why would we want Haitians in our city? Because they're going to bring their terrible life practices from a third world country into our cities. And that's a terrible idea. And suddenly, shockingly to him, he gets a history lesson on why maybe the United States holds a little bit of responsibility for why the Haitians are here in the first place.
Even people on the right now are saying Republicans have singled out Haitians.
We're importing thousands of people from the third world who are coming into communities, and nobody thinks that it will benefit America to become more like Haiti. Or I would
See what he's saying? If if Haitians come, they're going to make our cities more like Haiti. And I want you to explain to me how that's a good thing, because Haiti has to be bad. And what he's not saying is, because there are brown people there.
Challenge anyone, if they do think that, to explain how that's the case. When you look at Haiti, what part of Haiti are you saying to yourself, we need more of that? Your
Right.
country.
We don't want a marine invasion and occupation of the United States that constantly decapitates governments.
Ooh, now he's getting challenged on, oh, wait, maybe it's not totally the Haitians' fault that they live in a struggling country. Maybe there's, say, a really big, wealthy, militarily powerful nation to the north of them that makes it difficult for them to survive as a very wealthy, progressive nation themselves.
And takes the money out of the country. We wouldn't want to be like basically the United States that constantly decapitates governments and takes the money out of the country. We wouldn't want to be like basically a colony that the entire West spends 200 years punishing after the Haitian Revolution.
That's not entirely why Haiti's in the position that it's in. I mean, at a certain point, as a country, you have to stand on your own 2 feet.
Now here's Matt Walsh saying, oh, wah, wah, blame America, blame the white man. There you go.
It's in. I mean, at a certain point, as a country, you have to stand on your own 2 feet.
But at what point is that? They elect Aristide and we overthrow Aristide. Then they elect Jovenel Moïse. Jovenel Moïse is assassinated a bunch of people with American connections, and then we install in 2021. Like the United States installed the prime minister that we just ousted. Like, so we could say, okay, yeah, you got to get over the 200 years ago, but like we're still doing it.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not in favor of. I'm very non-interventionist in my policies, so I'm not in favor of most of the things that we're doing in other countries.
We just made the new government in Haiti, in a hotel room in Jamaica.
I love this. He's like, yeah, well, that's bad, but no, this is happening right now. We are doing this right now. And do you think maybe if we're doing it in Haiti, maybe we're also doing it in the other places people are coming from that we hate? Like, say, El Salvador and Mexico and Venezuela. And what other brown people do we hate? Maybe we're doing it in those countries too, like we have for the last 200 years.
And then we insisted that whatever government we made in Jamaica had to allow Kenyan troops to come in under the flag of the UN.
Remember history class? Well, maybe you don't, Matt. Remember the Monroe Doctrine that was then later updated by G.W. Bush, that anything that happens in this hemisphere, we're in charge of. That means all the Central American and South American countries don't get to be ripped off by European countries anymore. They can only be ripped off by us.
In order to go to war with the gangs.
Yeah, I'm not interested in,
right.
If it were up to me, I'm not interested in doing anything in Haiti. Like let Haiti be.
And all those guns that the cartels have in Mexico, do you know where they got them? Do you know where they were manufactured? You know who gave them to them? Americans. And you know who brings their fentanyl across the border? No, it's not those people crossing the river at El Paso that you hate. It's white people coming across the border and flying in. It's American citizens that are carrying the fentanyl in because the brown people know it's too risky and the cartels know it's too risky for the brown people to bring it in. So they pay white people a shitload of money to betray their own country and bring it in. But yeah, Donald Trump told you it's brown people and you don't care enough to learn the truth because you like being able to say, it's the Haitians, the pet eaters, right, Matt?
Haiti and take care of that. That's sort of my whole point here. Let them take care of themselves and their own problems. I'm also not saying that there's like never a scenario where we let someone from Haiti into the country.
So what is that scenario then, Matt? Because they had a horribly depressed economy, mostly because of us, and then they had a horrible I think it was earthquake. I'm sorry now. I can't remember if it was a hurricane or earthquake. They had a huge natural disaster and their country became almost unlivable. And so their people came to us asking for help. We gave them temporary sanctuary, and a lot of them went to Springfield, Ohio, where they needed workers, and they were very good workers. And the Springfieldians said, bring more of your relatives because we need more workers. And yes, they've had some trouble with overcrowding in the hospitals and the schools, but the employers are saying, wow, we're really happy to have these fabulous workers who are buying homes in our city and are making our economy turn up. So when is it, Matt, that it's okay for people who have problems caused a lot by us and the natural disasters to come and live out the American dream in our country?
But I guess your assumption there was that it is Haitian people that are creating the conditions on Haiti, and that if the Haitian people come to Springfield, they will recreate the conditions
but I don't think you
Haiti in Springfield. Whereas what I'm saying is that it's actually the U.S. that has.
I don't think you can entirely put it on
largely.
But it's still a country comprised of people, right?
But without its own autonomy.
But you can't. I don't think you can entirely put it on the United States. Like, the Haitian people have nothing to do whatsoever with the state of their own country. I'm perfectly willing to, as I said, agree that a lot of the United States sort of adventurism and interventions.
Wow, he's trying to tap dance.
In other countries has been unwise, and I'd prefer for us to focus on our own country and not try to build governments in other countries. But at the same time, I think that you can't completely absolve the people of any country, but ultimately, like, the people of the country have to be responsible for their own nation. And I say that of all nations.
So when is it? When do the Haitians get to come? And when do we not call them pet eaters or some other put down that has been used throughout the entire history of America to put down immigrants, not just Haitians, but all kinds of brown people, and also Italians and the Irish and the Poles and a whole bunch of other people that we just decided weren't good enough to be here after we got here. And this is the post-Donald Trump world. We had these feelings always. Donald Trump has just given people permission, particularly evangelical Christians, to put a voice to these horrid inner voices and make them now external. Sorry for my diatribe there, but this is horrible. That J.D. Vance, a vice presidential candidate, is willing to make up stories of people in his own constituency to say racist epithets that have been used in American history forever to put down people groups, and then claim to be a good Catholic. Read your fucking Bible. I love that Tim Walz used the Bible against Vance last night. We are not a good people. And how can we expect, if you read the Hebrew sacred text that says you've forgotten to give justice to the cause of the fatherless, you've gotten rich and fat, and your evil knows no bounds, how shall I not avenge myself against such a people? And yet here we are saying we deserve to treat people horribly at our southern border. I'm not saying we can't have an argument of how to best manage our southern border, but if our heart is, well, we'll make up stories if we have to scare people so that we can treat people badly at our southern border, that's not a godly stance in any way, by any definition, and certainly not a Christian one, because Jesus would never, ever have done that. I know this is right-wingers gone wild and is supposed to be funny, but I find nothing funny about that. People like Matt Walsh are super dangerous. And they are so attractive to right-wing Christians because when you're told over and over again, you're dirt and an original sinner and inherently terrible, the only way you can feel better about yourself is say, well, I've measured myself against the rules and I'm better than those people over there. I'm better than those, I'll call them illegal immigrants, even though they're legal. Because I want more political power and I want more stature. I'm better than those trans people. You name the group, I'm better than them. At least I'm better than those people. It's horrifying, and it's not Christian. It's not Christ-like. And it is in service to their leader, Donald Trump. And so my hope and my spirit that I send out of this to everyone today is, if you are a right-wing MAGA Christian, or if you're close to someone, that there could be a moment that you could be introspective to think, is there a chance this person is right? And that I'm under the control, like has happened so often through history, of a Christianity that's gone off the rails and is now on the wrong side of history. Because Romans 12:2 says, don't be conformed to the age or era or echo chamber that you're in, but be transformed or transfigured, completely changed, like the caterpillar into a butterfly, by the never-ending renewing of your mind so you can know what is good and right. And I believe if you're not willing to challenge your beliefs, you don't really believe they're true. Because if they were truth from heaven, you would have no fear of challenging those beliefs. They would be so easily proven true that you would never be afraid to challenge them. And B, that you're no longer trapped in captivity to the principality of an echo chamber of a religion, that the leaven of bad theology can get its hooks taken from you, and you can have eyes to see and ears to hear restored. Because as I say in my book, a right-winger transformed can transform the world. And I'm one of you. So it is possible. Quick commercial for the book, Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern day parable, my novel. It's amazing. All right. I will be back in about an hour with Doug Pagitt. If you don't have the link, it is on my Facebook page, or you can go to the Evangelicalish YouTube channel and click on that bell to get a notification when we come on. But we're hoping it'll be around 8 o'clock. And oh, wait, I have to. Joe Bumgardner said, LOL, I would not talk about the Bible if you don't believe it. You, a man, don't lay down with a man. The Bible tells you not to do that. And if you trun from that and not to do that, then you can be, I'm not sure what I'm saying there, but he's trying to say, he's trying to use gay clobber passages to discount my voice, because that's what Christians do. They cannot consider another viewpoint of their religion, so they go to their mantras. God hates gay people, queer people, so therefore you have no right to talk about the Bible. It doesn't matter if what I'm saying is true. It doesn't matter if what I'm saying is out of study of the Bible that probably is significantly more and longer and more intense than Joe Bumgardner has ever had, because all a Christian needs to do is use a mantra to fend off, don't throw that introspection my way. Don't bring that mirror towards me. I avoid thinking at all cost. Oh, the Bible doesn't hate anyone. Christians hate people by misusing the Bible, Joe. You confuse your hatred with biblical passages from the Hebrew sacred text of the Torah and the Christian New Testament. The Bible doesn't hate. Christians use it to justify their own dark-hearted hatred. So learn about what the clobber passages on homosexuality really mean. Spend some time challenging your beliefs. And if your beliefs are godly, you should have no fear whatsoever about listening to me and my viewpoint or challenging your own viewpoint. But if you don't really believe they're true, or you don't really believe your God is a good father, then you're terrified of actually having your beliefs challenged. And I know you are terrified of having them challenged, because that's what you've been groomed to believe and react to and taught. Throw out a mantra, putting down the person, discounting their voice, so you don't have to think about what you just heard from them. Clinic, I was in it for 50 years. I know how evangelicalism works, and you are sadly a test case of how right-wing Christianity has groomed and duped its people with politics. So no, Joe, it's not the Bible. It's you. It's you. You need to learn the Bible. Let me ask you a question, Joe. How do you decide which verses of the Bible are important and you get to use them to condemn people and display your hatred, and which verses you get to ignore for yourself? How do you make that choice? I'm interested. What is your experience with all of this, and how do you know that the Bible condemns me, even though you know nothing about me at all? But you have predetermined your condemnation of me, which is fine. That's what Christians do. You've been taught to do that, and I'm sorry that you've eaten that leaven. All of them are true. Okay. So when it says, beat your slave to the inch of death, and you'll be punished, but kill them and you'll be killed, that verse is true, and you live your life by it. When Peter says, slaves, obey your masters, even the harsh ones, then you believe slavery is okay. I'm tell you not to be tell about you, brother. Okay, so in other words, you're telling me you can't answer the question. Yeah, this is how Christians do it. Move the goalpost. Be fluid. I could sit here and name 100 verses that Joe Bumgardner doesn't follow in the Bible. And that's the hypocrisy that's taught to you by evangelicalism. See, Joe still is throwing out mantra after mantra. If I keep throwing these things out, then I can still avoid thinking. The Bible says David had a virgin in his deathbed, and it doesn't condemn him for it. By the way, virgin in the Torah as weak doesn't mean a woman who never had sex. It just means a young woman. Just like Mary was likely not a virgin when Jesus was born. But so, Joe, do you think it's okay for a man to I'm talking directly from the Bible. Is it okay, as long as it's a man after God's own heart, to have a virgin in his deathbed being forced to be there to keep him warm? Is it okay for a slave woman to be forced to have sex with her owner, to have a baby to be given to her owner's wife? Joe, Jesus said to go to heaven. Well, he actually said to inherit the kingdom, but I know you think they're the same thing. To inherit the kingdom, you have to feed, you have to take care of the poor, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, and visit the prisoner. Why do you ignore that verse? I think you would say to go to heaven, you have to say a magic prayer and join the right church. Jesus never once said that. Jesus said, straight from his mouth, You have to take care of the poor, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, and visit the prisoner in prison. And then he said there would be a bunch of religious people, perhaps like yourself, that would say, but we did all kinds of great things in your name, Jesus. And he said, and I'm going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. So, Joe, how do you decide, again, how do you decide which verses you get to use to condemn others? And again, I'm just asking you to think. I'm not challenging you to a duel. I'm asking you to think. It's okay. It's not a sin to think, particularly if you worship the one omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, all-loving, good Father. Why would you be afraid to ask questions about your belief? You should be the least afraid of asking questions of all people. How do you decide which verses you get to use to condemn other people and which verses you get to ignore for yourself? I think Joe has quit answering. So this is the sad truth, guys. Christians, A, do not know the Bible because they rarely read it. All they know is what they've been groomed to do, which is keep throwing out smoke screens and hope you'll stop asking questions. And again, Christian, please explain to me, if your God is the one omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, all-loving, good Father, why are you afraid of asking questions or having others ask questions about your religion? Joe, I do believe the Bible, and I believe it way more than you do, which means I embrace all of it and I work through the messiness of it. You, on the other hand, refuse to work through the mess of it and just say, I'm going to pick the verses I want to pick to use. Particularly, I love the ones that give me a chance to say I'm better than that person. And I get to discount that person's voice so I don't have to consider what they're saying. And I'm going to ignore any verse that's inconvenient to my narrative. So you don't really love the Bible, and you don't really follow or obey the Bible. I hope you can ponder that for just a minute. All right. Thank you all for being with me. This is what breaks my heart, is Christians that are so groomed and so indoctrinated that they can't even have a reasonable conversation. All they can do is, I love you, brother. I love you, as I condemn your ass. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.